All right, welcome back to another lesson. In this lesson, we want to look at how we make decisions in Python, right? What I mean by that is, how do we look at a statement and make a decision of what to do? Those type of statements, they're called if-else statement. And of course, there are different types of if-else. There's if and if-else statement, right? The first part we'll look at is the if-else statement, or just if statement, to find out if something happens, then something must occur, right? Say for example, if it is raining, so it is raining is the condition, right? So if it is raining, I will grab an umbrella and then I'll walk to school. Else I will just walk to school as I normally would. So let me say that again. The if statement, or the if-else statement, looks at certain conditions and then determines what action needs to be done. If your mom and dad calls you, then you answer politely, right? Else, we just continue with what you were doing. Make sense? If I have an assignment to do, then I go and I do my assignment. Else, I might continue to do what I was doing before. So the if-else, again, the if statement carries a condition. So if condition happens, or if that condition is true, then do something. Else, if that condition is not true, then it will do something else. And so we get to fill in those blocks with whatever we want to fill them in. So let's look at an example, and we'll look back at the same example where we were inputting data and converting data. So just keep that in mind. We already input our data by having the user input data. We converted that data, and we're going to look at a comparison to see if one number is larger than the other. So something pretty easy, just to show you the syntax of the if statement. Alright, so this was our last program we did, where we worked with our inputs. We were able to ask the user to enter two input values, num1 and num2. We converted them into integer values by using the int function, and we also got an answer, right? So let's say we want to compare the two numbers and print which number is greater, right? And we're not looking at the numbers being equal. That's a whole different scenario, right? So I'll get rid of this. So if you have the last program, you can open it back, or you can type all of these over. So we're saying, and the if is very specific, right? So if we have our two numbers, so if num1 was more than num2, notice when I press enter, it already tabbed in. Python is very specific about their tabs, right? So you need to ensure that when you're working with certain conditional statements, that you keep the tab to represent a programming block. Now, if you don't know what a programming block is, please do a little bit of research on it. It's just a block that belongs to that particular piece of code. So the if then tells me that whatever I type here belongs within the if statement. If I would type something here, it comes out of the if statement, right? So if num1 was greater than num2, I simply wanted to print that number 1 is larger, or is greater. Let's do greater. Number 1 is greater. If this is not true, then I do an else, and because I am looking for, I'm simply trying to determine which one is greater and which one is lesser, I can just say, alright, if num1 was greater than num2, that means that num1 is greater. And if that is not so, if that is not the case, then that means that num2 must be greater, right? Or they're probably equal. But forget the equal part right now. We'll say it just means that num2 is greater. So we'll print that number 2 is is greater. So I'm hoping you get that. We input two values, we're converting them into integer values, and then we're saying, all right, if num1, whatever number you enter for num1, if that was greater than the second number you entered, then have it print to the screen number 1 is greater. If that is false, then have it print to the screen number 2 is greater. So let's run that and see how that looks. So it says enter a number. So let's do 15, our first number, and our second number, let's do 5. What do you expect it to say? So it's checking if 15 is more than 5, which is true. It will print 15 is greater, or it will print, sorry, number 1 is greater. So it should not print both of them. It should only print number 1 is greater. So let's press enter. Number 1 is greater. Let's run it again and change things up. Let's make the first number we enter, let's put it smaller than the second number. Second number is 456. That's really large, right? And we press enter. It says number 2 is greater, because number 1 is not more than number 2. It ignores this section and it prints this particular section out. So go ahead and give it a try. Try to compare two numbers, see if you can get this working, and of course we'll look at some other examples in the future.